Hello, welcome back to another YouTube video. It's been a little bit. I had a couple rough weeks at work and I didn't want that to translate into bad content, so I just gave myself a little bit of a break. But I wanted to come back, of course, and record a video. May 20th, this past Monday, was my birthday, so we're gonna do something a little different. We're not reviewing anything. We aren't predicting anything. We are talking about my top 10 favorite women wrestlers. Women's wrestling is awesome and I love it. And I've been wanting to make a video talking about like my top 10 favorite wrestlers, but I'm going to wait a little bit for that because the list is still changing for me. But I wanted to at least make a quick video talking about my top 10 favorite wrestlers of sorts, but I just specifically want to do women's wrestling because I recently went back and rewatched a couple of matches, which I will mention in the video once we get to them, because some of those people who are in those matches are on this list. So before I get into my top 10, I'm going to throw in some honorable mentions. Specifically, Nikki Cross. I wanted to also throw in Shayna Baszler, and I wanted to throw in Trish Stratus, which the first two I can explain with just simply being they did a lot in NXT. Wish they did more in the main roster, but still, I have to give them some credit because of the run they had in NXT, specifically. But with Trish Stratus, it's because I didn't grow up watching Trish Stratus, so I don't have a lot of feelings towards her. Like, I think she's a good wrestler. I think she's the trailblazer, obviously. I think if you watch wrestling in general, you should kind of already know that, but I think there are some people who are on this list who also are like trailblazers in their own way for women's wrestling, and they just have also done more for me as a fan than Trish Stratus. So no slide towards Trish Stratus, but I cannot put her on this list because I just don't have as much of a connection to her compared to a lot of these other wrestlers who are on this list. So let's get into the actual top 10. At number 10, we got Asuka. An amazing run on NXT, undefeated streak and everything. I think when they brought her up to the main roster and they pretty much pushed her to the moon, I loved that. I was here for it. Loved Asuka in NXT. Loved what she was doing in the beginning of her run in the main roster. And then you have her win the Royal Rumble, her first year on the main roster. Amazing decision. But there's a lot of negativity and bad things that WWE specifically did with the reign at that specific time, the people who were running it, that just undermines so much of how amazing Asuka is, and I'm so glad that we've recently had her kind of return to being this awesome wrestler and shining more spotlight on her, because I think she deserves it. She's proven it time and time again. She is a workhorse. She can put on great matches. She has improved since debuting on the mic. I've always been entertained with her. I'm excited to see what they do in the future, but because of those few years when she was not being used correctly, I unfortunately do have to put her at 10. But at number 9, we have our very first 4-horsewoman. My least favorite, Charlotte Flair. I understand, amazing in-ring, time and time again, she proves that she's awesome in the ring. Had an amazing match, amazing matches, specifically with Sasha Banks, one of the 4 horsewomen, who we may or may not see later on in this list. But I think she deserves credit, and I enjoy her matches. It's her character. I'm not a huge fan of it. Only reason why it's this low. And also there's just wrestlers I like a little bit more. But not a whole lot to say with Charlotte. Her legacy speaks for herself, honestly. But still, number 9 on my list. And once again, plenty of career left. So it's not like it won't just... It could change. That's what I love about wrestling so much, is constantly... Like, I can look back at this video in a year and it could be almost completely different. Number 8 is Rhea Ripley. I like what she's been doing. I've always been interested in her. I just have such a connection to a lot of other wrestlers, and wrestlers that I have liked for a bit longer than Rhea Ripley. And it's not slighting her at all. I loved Rhea Ripley in NXT. I love what she's been doing on the main roster. And the more I think about it, the more I want to put her up even higher. But there's just some wrestlers on this list that I just don't think she's quite there yet of beating. But she is one of my favorites currently wrestling. But this is all time specifically. So not necessarily in this moment. In this moment, oh yeah, she's like top 3. But if you're talking all time, I cannot move somebody lower on my list to move Rhea up quite yet. I think you give it a couple of years, she could be top 3. That's what I think. But as it stands right now, she's number 8, but with no slight at all. Still love Rhea Ripley. Right after that, you have the second member of the 4 Horsewomen. At number 7, you have Becky Lynch. And I'm not just saying that because of the man character. I've gotten kind of a little tired of the man character here a little bit recently, but puts on amazing matches. I've been constantly entertained since she's been in the WWE. She's part of the back-to-back years that I look back and enjoy so much of 2016 and 2017 wrestling, specifically in the WWE. I was very hooked on it. I was watching it every week. I was watching people recap it after already watching the show. I loved Becky Lynch then. I'm glad she's had her moments. I think that if you have a top 10 women's wrestler list, I don't think you can reasonably keep her off of it. She has been one of the most crucial women in the WWE, like history-wise. There's a reason why they call themselves the 4 Horsewomen, because they are trailblazers. They're amazing women's wrestlers who prove time after time after time again. The people who say that women's wrestling isn't good, they prove them wrong every single time. So you have to have Becky on there for sure. Honestly, in what order you want to put the 4 Horsewomen on, you can. But they pretty much all have to be on the list because they are all awesome. But at number 6, we have Bianca Belair. Oh my goodness. I love me some Bianca Belair. I think she's an amazing in-ring talent. That's something that I love to see, just how many powerful, strong, and agile and amazing women wrestlers we have right now, because it makes it way more entertaining, and it pretty much puts to shame anybody who sits there and thinks negatively of women's wrestling, because they are awesome. And Bianca Belair, oh my goodness, her presentation alone is awesome. But you have how she interacts with the fans, how she has good storylines. She has so many positive things about her as a wrestler that I think in the future she might even go higher on this list. That's what makes this so difficult, is revisiting these and being like, man, I love this wrestler a lot. But you also can't necessarily change the impact that other wrestlers have had on you. But it's still like, I think within like next year, I want to possibly revisit this video and not only watch it for myself, but also re-record it just so I can see how much has really changed within that year. Because I think it will honestly change a lot. And I'm okay with that. Then at number 5, you have the third member of the Four Horsewomen. You have Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Moné. I've not seen her stuff outside of WWE, and it's not because I'm a hater of anything that's not WWE. I have grown up watching WWE, so I'm more comfortable with WWE. So I sit there and I enjoy that more. But I will check out other wrestling as well. And that's something I have been just putting off a little bit, is venturing out there more. But I think within this next year, I would definitely catch myself doing that. And I'm excited to check out Mercedes Moné's matches. Same with Sasha Banks. When her name was Sasha Banks in WWE. She is part of one of my favorite matches of all time, which I will actually talk about later on in this video, because the other person in that match is also on this list. But once again, bringing up the multiple matches that Sasha had with Charlotte Flair. Amazing matches. You can just go back, enjoy. I wish there wasn't so much flipping back and forth the championship. That's one thing I'm like not a huge fan of that they did around this time, but still, like, I miss Sasha Banks in the WWE. I cannot wait for her return. I thought it was going to happen at the Royal Rumble. I got too excited for it. That's just the fan in me wanting everything to be perfectly booked in my ideal world. But still, I think Sasha Banks is going to make herself even more valuable outside of WWE, come back to WWE, and just get an amazing crowd reaction, because that's what she's talked about doing, is she still has unfinished business in WWE, and I think that's the case. We saw Naomi return. I'm excited to see those two interact eventually when she does come back to the WWE. There's so many amazing matches I could just think of right now that I would just love to see from Sasha Banks, and I think she still has so much left, and I'm so excited to see more of her. So I'm definitely gonna have to sit there and look at her stuff she did in Japan and the stuff she's going to be doing in AEW. At number 4, you have Paige, the first women's wrestler I genuinely loved. I love it when they skyrocket people from NXT to the moon. That's something you'll see when I eventually make my top 10 favorite wrestlers. It's just people who from NXT were amazing, brought up to the main roster of the WWE and just pushed to the moon. Because that's how you build a star. But Paige is like the trendsetter of that. You have her match versus AJ Lee, where Paige debuts, where she shows up first night, faces AJ Lee, wins the championship. Amazing. I think she's also a pretty good wrestler. I've not seen her stuff in AEW, and I've heard it's not the best. But I will not let that tarnish the love I have for Paige, because anytime she would make any sort of debut or return, whether that was in-ring or when she was a manager or when she was working as a authoritative figure on SmackDown, I have always been interested in Paige, and I think that will be something I will end up looking at. Again, something on my bucket list is checking out her stuff she is doing in AEW. Number 3, might be a bit high for it, but I will say number 3, it's AJ Lee. In a period of time where women's wrestling was not really being looked at that much, and you had so many people pretty much using it as bathroom breaks for the actual events they were going to, you had AJ Lee, who was a step ahead of everybody. Now, that might be a little disrespectful, and I apologize if it comes off that way, but AJ Lee was so special. I think we'll never see another person similar to AJ Lee. She's just so unique, and how she carried herself. She was in a lot of main event kind of stories, even though she was not the focus. She was still like tagging along with it. I've always had a soft spot for AJ Lee, and it's so surprising to think that AJ Lee wasn't even in the WWE that long, but made such an impact that even years after, she doesn't even wrestle anymore. You will have people still like me putting her on a top 10 list for women's wrestling because she's that good. I would, in a perfect world, I would love to see her return and just verse anybody on this list, because that's what it is. I'm ranking it not all, like in a way all time, because there's a lot of wrestlers that have special places in my heart because of my viewing of them, but like it still does not give any discredit to any women before them. I think that there's a lot of amazing women's wrestling and women wrestlers throughout the history of the WWE, but also the history of professional wrestling. And I wish that throughout the entire history of WWE, we saw women's wrestling pushed in a positive light, because there's been time after time after time after time where they've been proven that they are as good, if not even better, than some of the men wrestlers who are going out there and wrestling sometimes lower quality matches. But if AJ Lee was able to come back and she wanted to, I would truly support that, because I'd buy the merch. 100% would buy the merch. But I understand if she never wrestles again, it's okay. It doesn't bother me one bit, because I enjoyed AJ Lee while she was in the WWE. But I would, of course, like to see more of that. At number 2, you have Alexa Bliss. So much nostalgia for Alexa Bliss. The 2016, 2017 era of Raw and SmackDown, when she was being WWE Women's Champion. I love that. I don't know. I've always been captivated by her. And I've always enjoyed her wrestling. I will say that there were times when she was partnered with The Fiend where I did not like it that much. But I was okay with it until Bray Wyatt got released and they just made her continue the gimmick for some reason, which doesn't make any sense at all, because all it kind of seemed like it was doing was hinting at a Bray Wyatt return, which wouldn't make any sense if they just released him. I digress. I think Alexa Bliss is awesome. I've always been intrigued of what she is doing. I liked her, not only her solo career so far, but I think she's done pretty well when she's been a tag team. I think she's been great when she's been a manager for tag teams. I think you can put Alexa Bliss in like any kind of like role and she just works. And so I'm excited to see Alexa Bliss back in WWE, but she had a kid. Congratulations to her. But definitely ready to see her back. And at number 1, the final 4 horsewomen. It is Bayley. She is my favorite women's wrestler of all time, which makes me sad when I hear that people don't like Bayley, because she had such a chokehold on my viewing of wrestling for a while. Like, Bayley in NXT freaking rocked. One of my favorite matches of all time was, I hinted at it earlier, was Sasha Banks versus Bayley in, I want to say it's TakeOver Brooklyn, when they had the 30-minute Iron Woman match. Oh my goodness, I love that match. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna rewatch it here soon. But if you've not checked it out, you have to. It is one of the prime examples of how awesome Bayley and Sasha Banks are. You even hear people who are so impacted by it that they started to learn how to wrestle. And people overall who watch that match and is like, this is an amazing match. And honestly, I'm pretty sure Bayley's probably sick and tired of hearing about it, because it is that damn good. And I think it's worth it to give all that credit to, because Bayley is still like so underrated. And let's look away from NXT. What has she done on the main roster? I enjoyed her when she first came up to the main roster, and then they put her in a storyline where she was scared to use kendo sticks. Anyway, but then the pandemic rolled around, and you had her dominant reign as champion. Literally one of the only reasons why consistently I did not miss WWE at this specific time, because you had like no crowd, nothing like that. But then you had like Bayley and Sasha Banks as heel tag team champions, and then also Bayley with the women's championship. Oh my goodness, I love that. I wish that she had more accolades in general. Like, I wish she just kept on getting pushed to the moon, because I think she deserves it. She is an amazing wrestler, good baby face, good heel, been able to change up throughout her career and still be so entertaining. She's someone who I don't think necessarily gets enough credit for how clean she is within between the ropes, but the most amount of credit goes to Bayley. Has been someone who truly just made me fall in love even more with women's wrestling, and I do every single time I watch her wrestle, because she's so gifted at it, and the crowd love her, and I'm of course one of those people. That is the end of my ranking. If you enjoyed, hit the like button and subscribe button. I got a few videos coming out for you this week. We have predictions, and then we have the review of King and Queen of the Ring, and then I'm, fingers crossed, hopefully going to have enough time this Sunday to sit down and watch, not watch, but review WrestleMania 3. And then I don't know about next week, but I have a few different videos in mind. If you have any wrestling matches or wrestling events you want me to review, leave them down in the comments below. And also let me know your top 10 women's wrestlers of all time. But that's it. That's it for this video. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.